The What Your Next podcast helps to build a TBR of future favorite books. In each episode, Lauren and Maine interviews authors and book influencers to recommend books they love for you to pick up today. If you're an avid reader, always looking for your next great read, then the show. Hi, Amanda. Welcome to What Your Next podcast.
Hi, Laura. Thanks so much for having me.
So happy to have you back. So tell us what you've been up to.
So since releasing Sadie on a Plate last year, I've been working on Bester of Tot, which is my new rom-com out from Berkeley. And it's my enemies to lovers rom-com about two competing restaurant reviewers who start off not liking each other, but then, of course, they go viral after yelling at each other in a video and are forced to work together to increase their respective views. And they find out that maybe they don't hate each other so much after all.
Yeah, and this book delves into the idea of like influencer reviewers, like food reviewers, along with like the old school reviewers, that we see like print publication. We see that, and we see the food community, restaurant community in New York. So what was the source of inspiration? Like, what led you to pick this specific particular niche in the foodie world?
Well, I knew I wanted to write about restaurants. So in Sadie on a Plate, I wrote a lot about cooking, but I didn't really get to talk much about restaurant food. And since I live in New York City, which is kind of, the mecca of restaurants in the U.S., although there are so many other great restaurant cities in the U.S., like New York, I think is really special. And it's kind of a love letter and an homage to this place that I love, where you can go out to a different amazing restaurant every day. And because of all the restaurants opening and closing, you could literally go out every single day for the rest of your life and not try every restaurant.
Yeah, that's one thing. And you can also find fall favorites, and then you find them like they close down, there's something new pops up, or something new, or there's like new fusions, like new ideas, new foodie ideas that will pop up,
Exactly. There's always new things to try and new cuisines to try. So it's so much fun being here in New York and loving restaurants.
And then you also deal with like the influencer world, because it's like actually, marketing, like the whole world that we now live in with social media being such a prominent aspect. What was your research for that part?
So that was just a lot of online researching. It was watching a lot of like restaurant reviewers on Instagram and TikTok, and, reading blog reviews, seeing how people do it on sites like Yelp. And yeah, just kind of looking at their behind the scenes and things like that. And so it was a lot of fun researching actually Bennett's job, who is the kind of the legit restaurant reviewer at the major paper, and reading about what reviewers at places like the New York Times and the Washington Post go through in order to keep their identities a secret. While they're reviewing, because of course, if the restaurants find out who they are, they'll give them special treatment, and then they're really no longer giving an honest review to their readers. So, these people will go in full on disguises. They have like false identities. It sounds like fun, but also really complicated and difficult. I don't know if I can pull it off.
Yeah, I don't know if I can pull off like a secret identity. I'm like, okay, like I just want to come in disguise, incognito, and then they might be recognized because word of mouth might happen, and then it's like a whole different thing, and like your identity get discovered, and then like what if you leave a scathing review and then it just like your identity gets recognized and you get like blackball or something. So
yeah, I know. I was reading one like Reddit Ask Me Anything thread where a reviewer was talking about how he'd go into restaurants and he'd see like an old blurry photo of himself like on the bulletin board, so that like the host would know who to look out for. So I thought that was funny.
Oh my gosh, that sounds funny, honestly. Yeah, like there's a whole world of like, of food restaurant reviewers and stuff like that. It's not as monetized as like a food blogger or even like other places, but it's interesting, like this whole world. I know like a few months ago there was like a whole chicken Caesar salad, thread on TikTok about like, the best chicken Caesar salad wraps in New York, and it was like interesting, like how people are niche about it, and they'll give the reviews and then they'll actually get traffic, and then they get sponsors and all those different things, So that sounds good. So let's chat some book recommendations. What kind of books
Absolutely, my favorite.
Want to recommend?
So I read pretty much everything, which makes it hard to pick books to recommend, because on one hand, I kind of want to recommend books that are like similar to mine, as in like if you like books like Sadie on a Plate and Best Served Hot, you might also like this. But on the other hand, I just also love all kinds of books. So, I just want to recommend everything that I read. So I'm hoping that I have like a good mix of the two here. So my first one I want to recommend is The Fraud Squad by Kyla Zhao, which just came out recently. And it's this really dishy, fun it's not quite a rom-com. I'd say probably it's a contemporary, but it definitely has some romance elements, about a working class girl in Singapore who decides to lie her way into becoming like a socialite in the Singapore social scene. And through that way, she wants to get her dream job at a magazine, because only kind of upper class people can get those kinds of jobs. And it's just really fun. It was just so much fun to read. Like, I just had a smile on my face the whole time reading this book. Like, I love books like Crazy Rich Asians, like for these books where people kind of find their way into this, ludicrous social scene with these people who are living lives that most of us could never even dream of. And so that book was so much fun. I definitely recommend it. And I think, Best Served Hot has some of those similar kind of like class warfare, like fish out of water elements, because my main character is like a working class girl who works as an executive assistant for a billionaire. And so she's kind of exposed to this, life that she is not really a part of, but she sees a lot of it. So another one I really loved is Love in the Time of Serial Killers by Alicia Thompson. And it's a romance about a girl with a lot of trauma in her past, and she falls in love with her neighbor, who she at first thinks might be a serial killer. And she's kind of sees serial killers everywhere because she's working in academia on research about serial killers. And I just thought it was so much like dark fun. Like, I love a good dark sense of humor, a dry sense of humor, and this book has that in spades. So definitely check it out if you love like some dark humor in your romance. Yeah. So another one I really, really loved that comes out soon is Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers by Jesse Q. Sutanto. I read this on a plane, and it was good enough to make me forget that I was on a plane, which is a lot because I hate flying. So if a book is good enough to make me forget that I'm on a plane, it's definitely a keeper. And it's a cozy mystery. It's so funny. It's probably one of the funniest books that I've ever read. I was laughing out loud, again, like on a plane where I hate being, about a little lonely lady who has a murder happen in her tea shop, and she kind of has to solve the murder, and she ends up pulling together this found family of people related to the victim. And they're all like lonely in different ways, and they end up with this really heartwarming, beautiful found family. And I just love this book so much. So please make sure to check that book out if you like a little murder in your humor. Another one, so A Novel Obsession by Caitlin Barash. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of not a funny book per se, but it's a literary thriller about a woman who ends up getting obsessed with her new boyfriend's ex-girlfriend and kind of stalks the ex-girlfriend and wants to find out everything she can about the ex-girlfriend. And it was one of those books like if you like the TV series You and the book series You, you would like this book, because I could not, I was horrified by it. I did not like the main character. I would not want to meet her like in a dark alley or like in a bright alley. Mm-hmm. But I couldn't look away. It was like, it was really darkly thrilling. And so if you like shows like that, you definitely check this book out. And so finally, one more that I really liked that is kind of a total left turn from any of these books is A Final Strife by Sarah El Arifi. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, and I'm sorry if I'm not. And that's an epic fantasy. So all the other books I was talking about were contemporary. And so this is an epic fantasy set in a secondary world based on some of the cultures of Africa and Asia. And it follows three women as they try and navigate their kind of blood-based hierarchy in their world. And some try to climb their way to the top, some try and stay at the top, and some are just trying to stay alive. And I thought it was totally absorbing. I'm very picky when it comes to fantasy, and this one totally just drew me in, and I can't wait for the other two in the trilogy. I'm very excited to find out what happens next.
my gosh, you gave me some good recommendations, and I agree with like the first three books. I was like, they're great books to read. The Fraud Squad was perfect for like if you want to be transported to Singapore and that rich,
Exactly.
rich kids behaving badly, community. This is like the perfect escape.
Yeah, it's like Gossip Girl. Like I don't watch Gossip Girl, to see altruism and nice things. I watch it to see rich kids being terrible to each other. And that was, that book too.
Yeah, so I love this. Amanda, tell us where we can find you online.
So you can find me online at amandapanich.com. That's PANITCH. And I'm also on Instagram at Amanda Panich, same spelling.
Thank you, Amanda, for being on the show.
Thank you so much again for having me.
If you enjoyed this podcast, feel free to share with friends, subscribe, rate, and review the show. This is the easiest way to support the podcast. For a list of books mentioned and other romance recommendations, please visit whattoreadnextblog.com. Did you know you can purchase audiobooks directly from your favorite local bookstore? With Libro.fm, you can pick up more than 250,000 audiobooks, including bestsellers and recommendations from real booksellers. You'll get the same audiobooks at the same price as the largest audiobook company, you know the name, but you'll be part of a different story, one that supports your local community. If you're new to audiobooks, there's a perfect way to squeeze into more reading into your busy life. Listen with the free Libro.fm app while you do your chores, walk your dog, relax at home. The What to Read Next podcast has a special offer for our listeners. Get 2 audiobooks on Libro.fm for the price of 1 with your first month of membership. Use code What to Read Next. This offer is only valid for new members in Canada and the US. Thank you so much for listening and have a great day.